Hey guys, it's Jonny. If you're a digital nomad or someone with an online business, then you may be looking at structures and ways to run your business. And as a result, setting up a separate legal entity, forming a company or incorporating somewhere in the world may be something that's crossed your mind. And for people doing business in Europe or looking for where to set up a company in Europe, there are a lot of options available out there. And there are some very interesting tax incentives and easy company formation options out there as well. In this video, I'm going to talk through 4 different locations where you could consider for incorporating your European company. So let's get right into the video. Now, a quick disclaimer before we start. This video is for information purposes only, because what is right for one person may not be right for another. Tax and where to set up a company is obviously something very personal, depending on your personal, your business needs, and a whole load of other factors. So this video shouldn't be taken as tax advice, more for informative purposes, and you should always consult with a tax professional before setting up a company and when deciding where is best for you. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the video. Now, the first country I'm going to talk about has become very popular amongst digital nomads thanks to its very easy incorporation process, quick timelines, and ease of doing business, and that's Estonia. Several years ago, Estonia launched its e-residency program, which essentially allowed anybody in the world to apply for an e-residency card and as a result be able to do legal and administrative processes in Estonia online. And one of those processes under that e-residency scheme was the possibility to open up a limited company in Estonia. When you open a limited company in Estonia, you'll see that it has the initials OU with the little dots above it. This is basically the denotion of a limited company in Estonia. Before the 1st of February this year, the minimum share capital required to open a limited company in Estonia was €2,500, but as of the 1st of February this year, that's been reduced to just €1. Now, Estonia is not a tax haven, nor does it offer the most favorable tax rates in Europe when it comes to taxation of companies. However, there is the interesting situation in Estonia where you will only pay 20% tax on distributed profits from the company. So that's to say that you can make a profit in your company, but as long as you don't distribute out from it, so pay yourself a dividend or pay out a dividend to other shareholders of the company, then you won't be required to pay that 20% tax. And when it comes to VAT registration for Estonian companies, your turnover should be in excess of about €30,000 per year for you to require signing up for a VAT number. Now, as I say, the process of opening a company in Estonia is very easy. It's relatively quick as well. Once your e-residency application has been accepted and you have your card, you can go about setting up a company. So there are a lot of companies online that will help you with company formation. It will typically cost you between €400 to €500 to set up a company, depending on what services they're offering, whether you're including a virtual office, whether they're offering you accounting services as well. And the whole process can be done online as well. And typically, once the application is submitted, within 1 to 2 days, the courts in Estonia will provide a decision and your limited company will be set up. Another major positive about opening up an Estonian company is that you don't necessarily have to have a bank that is located in Estonia. I've talked about Wise and Revolut on this channel in more detail. I'll leave the video link in the description and in the top so that you can go and check it out. But essentially, both Wise and Revolut business accounts are acceptable for Estonian companies. Next country we're going to talk about is up and coming and also has some of the lowest tax rates in the European Union when it comes to running a business, and that is Romania. Now, there are various legal setups that you can use when opening a company in Romania, but probably the most attractive one for digital nomads and online businesses is the micro sole entrepreneur limited setup, known as an SRL in Romania. With this micro limited liability company, there's no minimum share requirement, as is common for various other forms of legal setup as well in Romania, but it gets particularly interesting from a tax perspective because you only pay 1% on corporate profits and you also only pay 8% on dividends distributed out of the company. So in total, that's a 9% tax that you pay on any profits generated through your company in Romania. You're also not required to register for VAT unless your income in the company is greater than 300,000 Romanian lei, which is about €88,500. What you do have to keep in mind though with this smaller micro limited liability company is that it's only valid if your turnover does not exceed about €500,000 per year. So beyond that, you'd have to take one of the other structures where there are perhaps more restrictions and, the Corporate tax is still favorable, but it's not as favorable as the micro limited liability company scheme. Now, to open a company in Romania, you'll submit an incorporation request, which will include your company's name, its trading address. It is possible to get a virtual address for a Romanian company as well. And once you've submitted the registration documentation, the company is normally approved within 3 to 5 days. It's worth noting as well, there's a lot of information requested and that will need to be filled in as part of the registration process in Romania. So not only will you need to be extra careful with what you fill in and how you fill it in, but if you're not a Romanian speaker, then it's probably a good idea to hire a Romanian lawyer or translator to help you through that process as well. And of course, once your company's open, then you'll need to look for the likes of an accountant who can help you with the bookkeeping. Having a company in Romania as well, you'll typically expect to pay around 2,200 euros in social security costs. Unlike in Estonia, if you open a company in Romania, you will need a local bank account, and probably you'll have to travel to Romania to go and open one of those accounts. Some of the bigger banks in Romania where you might go and look to open a business account could be Banca Transilvania, could be BCR, BRD, it could be Raiffeisen Bank as well. All right, the next country we're going to talk about has become very popular among business owners and investors thanks to a special taxation regime that it has for non-residents, and that is Cyprus. You can open a limited company in Cyprus with as little as one share valued at €1, and you have the possibility to explore a range of tax benefits in Cyprus under what's known as the non-domicile tax regime. Now, corporate tax in Cyprus is also one of the lowest in the EU at about 12.5%, and Cyprus doesn't actually leverage any taxes on payouts like dividends. What it does have is a special defense tax of about 17%, which is applicable to Cypriot long-term residents or Cypriot citizens. However, if as a foreigner you're able to prove that you don't fall under that criteria, then you're essentially exempt from that defense charge under the non-domiciled regime, and you'll be able to pay out dividends to yourself tax-free. So what a lot of business owners in Cyprus may do is pay themselves a small salary up to the tax-free limit of about 18,000 euros, if I remember correctly, and then pay themselves the rest out in dividends. Again, not tax advice. The requirements to register for VAT in Cyprus, however, are quite low. If your company is turning over 15,600 euros or more per year, then you will have to register for VAT in Cyprus. So again, registering a company in Cyprus can be done completely online. And the cost of setting up a company in Cyprus, when you factor in the costs of having your company name approved, submitting the articles of association, and other documentation required. You've of course got companies that will help you for this, who will all charge their various fees on top of, the costs associated with the approval of the company. And so due to this favorable tax regime with the 0% tax on dividend, also profits from overseas and the sale of real estate overseas, you can see why, for investment companies, investment vehicles, perhaps real estate companies as well, Cyprus is perhaps an interesting place to consider incorporating a business. And the last country we're going to talk about is not necessarily one that comes to mind immediately, certainly didn't come to my mind, but it has launched its own white card recently, which is essentially a digital nomad visa, and that is Hungary. Now, a Hungarian company can be set up with a single director, and there are multiple different forms that you can set up a Hungarian company. Probably the one that's most applicable to digital nomads and online businesses is the limited liability company, which is denoted as KFT in Hungarian. Unlike the other countries that we've mentioned in this video, Hungary does have slightly higher minimum share capital requirements of about 3 million forint, which is about 9 to 10,000 euros, and half of it must be paid in upon the company's incorporation, with the other half paid in a year after the incorporation of the company as well. One of the most interesting things about Hungary, though, is its interesting tax situation, again with one of the lowest corporate tax rates in the European Union at a flat rate of 9%. Nevertheless, most companies are required to register for VAT in Hungary regardless of their turnover. Now, the process of filing for and registering a company in Hungary can take between 2 to 15 days, and then it's normally approved within 1 day of the courts receiving the documentation. The cost is not very high as well. If you go down the simplified filing route for a limited company, then it will only cost you about 50,000 Hungarian forint, which is about 130 euros, or it will cost 100,000 forint if you go down the standard filing approach. There'll then be, of course, companies that will help you with the setup, and again, will charge their own fees on top of the duties and registration costs. You'll also have a publication fee when registering your company of about 5,000 forint as well. So guys, there you have 4 countries in Europe where you could possibly consider setting up an online business. As I said in the beginning, do discuss with a tax advisor in depth because everybody's situation is personal. But I hope this has at least given you some information to help you get started, to start looking into what might be right for you. Leave a comment and let me know, are you a digital nomad or online business owner with a company set up in any of these European countries? So next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.